we're trying to look
Yeah.
for what is actual choice. It's easy to define, it's easy to recognize. What is it internally that happens? Chi?
Yeah, what's coming up for me in terms of your experience is what's the difference between how you are behaving now and what it feels like to make a choice now and what it was like before when you didn't make a choice or avoided making a choice? Like what's the shift?
Mm. That difference. Yeah. And what is it?
I think before it was an alignment with ego. Like I want to be perceived in a certain way. And the choices that I'm making now are this is who I am. Like it comes from within. And I don't give a shit what my family thinks about it. Um, like it just feels like any other choice is it's not going to end well. And I think I also before I would focus on, if I make a choice, I keep making little choices. I haven't made that ultimate choice yet. And it may or may not happen, it may or may not be the luck of the draw. I would leave things up in the air, or leave too much to chance, I think. Whereas now it's like I make a choice and nothing is going to stop me.
I also heard not a cough. I heard um something about waiting in there, like no longer waiting.
Yeah.
When you make a choice, there's no longer waiting for it to happen. You're you're the happening. And there's other forces at play, a divine force, economic force, metabolic force, right? But there's a it almost feels like okay, we're gonna get a little metaphysical here. Um, yeah, let's explore this a little bit. Just play along with me here because I'm exploring this with you. In quantum physics, basically you have and essentially you have particle wave duality. If you guys have heard of the double slit experiment, basically the short of it is it shows that if light, if photons go unobserved, they create a wave. As soon as they become observed, they turn into a particle. It's more complicated than that. So all you physicists, don't jump on me. I'm just using it for illustration. There's more of a metaphysical realization of this about human consciousness, about consciousness itself, observing. And going from wave into a particle is another way to talk about, let's say, going from vibration and energy into matter, right? And so through the observation, whether it was a camera or human or whatever it is, it causes that to happen. And I forget what the term is, but there's the term in physics where it basically says any observation of an experiment inherently alters the results and data. Um, and so scientists, they'll reduce those as much as possible to get as close as you can. But as soon as you observe something, there's an inherent interference, not an interference in a negative way, but in interaction. Okay, what does this have to do with anything here? One could posit that choice is the thing that goes from the field, the quantum field, into matter, that goes from wave into particle. So when I feel when I feel into choice, It feels like what happens when a photon, electron, a particle of matter fluctuates in and out of the quantum field. Because where where does choice begin and end? The actual moment of choice. Can you grab it? Right? I can say this. There's a definite moment, right? When those two pieces of matter collide. I don't know if you can hear it, but there's a bang. Choice, if it appears, and this is what I was asking Holly, you can only recognize choice by the before and after. So this is, I think, it's just a thought experiment I'm doing here of how do you lasso, how do you wrangle choice? How do you find it? Well, it appears that there is there's a moment, there has to be a moment between before you made the choice and after the choice. But where's the choice? How do you do that? It's it it sort of feels like, how do you move your hand? Well, you go like this. No, you don't. There's some signal here, but how do you make that signal from this neuron fire? We can map it out all we want, but what is the thing that causes the brain to do that? And what's it inside the brain that causes that part of the... This is the thing we're all trying to figure out about consciousness. Where's consciousness situated? Where's choice situated? And if you play with this a little bit, you feel into it. If you guys are open to do this, this could be fun, a little different than normal. But who would be open to just very quickly doing an archetype around choice here right now? Okay, enough people. Cool. All right. So what we're going to do in a moment here, we're just going to go through everybody and just stand up. And you all know how to do a cinesomatic archetype. And we're going to say, show me choice or making a choice. All right. So we're just going to go around the room. We're not going to do diagnostics or anything like that. We're just going to get reference points and observe what happens. All right. So let's start with you, Jonathan. Spotlight for everybody. Go for it. Okay, great. Come sit down. All right. Let's see who I got up next here. Holly.
So I'm gonna have to move some stuff out of the way.
Actually, here we're gonna go to somebody else and have you, or if you can quickly turn off your background blur because that's interfering with it. If you know how to
Yeah,
do
go ahead
that
and
real
go
quick.
to somebody else, and I'll figure out the
Right,
background.
you're up next for me. You stand up. If you stand up, show me making a choice. You can do it there. Just squeeze in. Okay, good. All right, Holly, you ready?
Yes.
Great.
Okay. So
Okay, great. All right, come sit down. Mauricio, show me choice, making a choice. Great. All right, Glenn. Can you bring your camera down a little bit? We're in a house of fun mirrors here. There you go. All right, do it again so we can see your hands. Great, cool. Thumbs it down. All right, Elias. All right, Neil. Great, perfect. All right, Hannah. And for you folks here at the end, make sure you do spontaneously for yourself. Try not to change it based off of what you saw. Go ahead. Okay. All right. And Darun. Great. Come sit down. Is everybody? Yeah. All right.
Hannah's place looks like your place, Andrew.
Yeah. I wonder why. All right. Let's take a look. She's been heavily influenced by my taste. So as many folks. They go home and replicate my
That's
house.
true. That's actually true.
All right. What'd you guys see? We can go through here real quick. I'll bring this up to take a look, see. But what'd you guys see
Looked pretty masculine.
in general? Or
Yeah, like everyone's movements were movements that I've seen, I think even over different calls, different people doing making a motion for it.
Mm.
Well,
And so what would you consider that would make it feel masculine?
it was pretty consistently directional.
Hmm.
Um, I guess that's the thing that I noticed in the movements that I would call masculine. Yeah.
Mm. So this just reminds me of an idea that I had. I think maybe it was on. I don't know if I was on a call with you, Neil. Maybe you, but um, w one of the projects I'll be doing in the future is creating a somatic dictionary. Um, I may shared with a few people. Um, but this is the kind of thing that we're going to do. And so instead of having a dictionary that's all defined by words, more symbols to more symbols, we're going to do exactly what Elias did and say, all right, we got 20, 30, 40 people here doing a movement, doing an archetype, a concept, choosing. All right, what is the common thread? Huh. Is that common thread functional and accurate? You probably out of 20, 40 people, if they're mostly functional people, you'll be able to find something like this. Now, maybe not everybody here had a directionality, but through how Elias saw it, there was this definitive directionality to it. And so, what I want to do is create a somatic dictionary that defines concepts, abundance, confidence, wealth, peace, ease, yes, suffering, negative, all these things through feeling. Okay, directionalized from a feeling place, not from a concept place, an emergent. And so basically, the idea is, well, for practitioners or clients, um, to basically say, all right, I want to be more confident in life. Well, here are 6 qualities of feeling that if you begin to move through the world in feeling in these ways, the emergent the emergent quality of that is likely to be something like confidence, something like this. So both in a diagnostic way, but also in a mapping this stuff out. It's been mapped out through words to words in this circular kind of way, but I haven't found it mapped out through feeling. And so we say, all right, directionality. And so we'll look at things like, well, what is it not? What can't be in there, right? Maybe, likely, ambigu, uh, you know the word. Ah,
Ambiguity.
man. Ambiguity. Yes, thank you. I was getting caught up on the syllables. So ambiguity probably necessitates not being in there, right? Or it would water it down or make it weak. So this is one of the visions I have for many different things in the Cinesomatic Andrew Daniel universe of these things. Another thing is um, things on wealth and abundance. I'm in my beginning stages of getting this trickled out there, but at some point, having, let's say, millionaires, multimillionaires, and maybe even billionaires give me a few minutes of their time to film them going through like 20 different archetypes around wealth, success, and money, and just say, all right, show me this, show me this, show me this in the body. And so I map out an embodiment of wealth and money. And we could also probably do this with other stuff. But so imagine growing up in an environment where you've never been around money, wealth, abundance, success, any of this stuff. You learn all of the things from the books and you still can't get it. Why? Because you don't know what it feels like. You don't have it in your body. Imagine being able to map this out and say, oh, movements, wealthy movements feel like something. And being able to do that, I think it could bring a lot of people out of poverty. I think it could be fantastic. the next Think and Grow Rich. Really, that same concept of what the somatic feel and feel, Think and Grow Rich, feel and grow rich. Yeah, something like that. Anyway, I just want to share sometimes I have these inspirations and a vision when a lot of folks here are interested in long-term cinesomatics, being practitioners, facilitators, investing. How do we get the message out? What is this whole thing all about besides just helping people on calls? And these are some of the things. So there's decades of stuff here that I have planned out, and you're obviously all welcome to contribute and be a part of this. But back to choosing. We can see here that taking this same concept that Elias just talked about and I just expanded upon, there's a feeling of directionality. All right. So just that realization alone. Now, maybe we could have thought about that, but it's an emergent quality through people's just natural ways of doing this. And we're going to go through and see if they actually feel like making a choice, because there might be someone here that isn't good at making choices, and they would be used as a not negative, but a not non-functional reference point. Doesn't necessarily make it's dysfunctional, but if you see somebody making choice and they're like, probably don't want to model that one. But you can use that to say, oh, there's something in here that we certainly don't want, but we would never know that without the dysfunctional one. So this is important for the group work you guys are all a part of, because your participation, your contribution of your dysfunction is equally as valuable as your contribution as your functionality. Because a reference point of what doesn't work can be just as helpful as something that does work. We also know about reverse wiring, flipping, doing it backwards, doing it wrong. That polarity doesn't work with everything, but it's a helpful starting point, right? Because if we say directionality, well, what's the opposite? Non-directional. Well, can you make a choice that's non-directional? I don't know, maybe. Well, let's find out. Let's explore. Let's not now, but for example, all right, now have somebody try making a choice that doesn't have direction. Maybe 10 people do it, and we all say, no, none of that feels like a choice. Okay. You guys understand here? I'm teaching how to think, how to feel, how to perceive inside and about cinesomatics and awaken to your true self. All right, all of this work. All right, so directionality. What else? Now that I kind of laid that out, help start thinking about that as you begin to share. Go ahead, Neil.
Thought it was kind of interesting that everyone's that I can remember was more serious. I wasn't feeling much joy or fun in any of them.
Great. All right, so let's just play with that. Can anybody imagine making a choice that was from play and fun and levity? Yeah. maybe not Darun. So, but this is really helpful, right? This is a great piece of data, Neil. Darun laughs. Well, I think we know why. We'll take a look, but yeah. However, right? If it's like blah, 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 hysterical, blah, right? That's probably not going to work either. You can also imagine, let's say Elias, as Elias was talking about this masculine quality, you can imagine this energy, or Darun, right? Darun's was very like this. Well, if you're a hunter, that could be a very helpful energy. So it doesn't make it wrong. It doesn't make it bad. We're just looking and feeling how to define making a choice from these things. And it appears that being serious or playful isn't necessarily a deciding factor in an archetype of choice. Does this all make sense, folks? Yeah. Go ahead. Chi, I think you had something, or Darun, somebody else.
Yeah, what I noticed was the origination of the movement. Some people started outside of themselves, and then some people started within themselves. That stood out to me.
Okay, so teach us let's explore, guide us. What would that mean? What starting outside yourself? You sort of said it in there.
Yeah, probably because I was conscious that when I make a choice, it starts within me. So I remember doing this, but then when I watched other people, I was like, oh, that's interesting. Some people see the choice as out there, and so that just stood out to me, which would have different consequences, I suppose.
Yeah, well, let's explore it.
Yeah.
What could those different anyone's allowed, you're invited to pipe in, participate. What could those different consequences be?
It actually reminded me of what Holly said when Holly said when she was trying to make the distinction between her present and her past way of being, it sounded like the choice was actually in her beingness. Like she made the choice to be authentic, and everything else has been a choiceless choice, if you will, ever since. And I think that's also kind of the way I approach choice. It's more of the being that follows through and the consistency of it than so much the choosing of the thing. So for me, in my mind, that shows when trials and tribulations come, you're more likely to keep your choice, your commitment to your choice, because it's not based on anything outside of you where that choice is coming from. But if it was the other way around and your choice is coming from outside of you, when trials and tribulations come, you're more likely, at least in my mind, that's where I see it, you're more likely to move on or let go.
Okay, Elias, you had something?
When the choice begins outside of you, it's probably because it's showing up in the world. So they're kind of it's like the difference between observing what seems to be available and selecting from it versus creating something and
Hmm.
actualizing it.
Yeah. So that reminds me, Darun, that was you, right? We talked about choice only being something you can select between that's given to you. You want to share a little bit about that in relevance to this?
Yeah, I think one of the findings that, well, one of the discoveries that I made was choice was three things given to me and I could choose between them. So it wasn't really a choice. It was a curated sense of these are the only things I could choose from. And that's all I knew in my consciousness of what a choice was. So it really wasn't a choice. It was just a curated sense of what I perceived the world would allow me to make. That's it. And two or three, that's it. And so it didn't really feel like a choice, but I thought that was what choice was.
Right. So I was contemplating myself as we were doing this because I was seeing this. I was even wondering if there's a different word. Um, but it feels like choice, kind of like stop. I kind of have two different definitions of stopping. Um, it almost feels like there's two different definitions of choice. One is selective, that feels more like you're selecting options. But even as I say that, internally, when you make a choice, you're selecting something. But but it doesn't necessarily feel like options. If I just say I want water, I choose to have water. I didn't precognate five things in my mind to pick from. I didn't select it. So maybe selection is a component of choice, or not. Like you can have a choice without selection, but and choice with a selection. This is all right. We're all doing this at the cutting edge. There's, you can bet nobody fucking else is talking about this right now. But
But
these
either
distinctions are the difference between success and not, of being able to make a choice or not. Go ahead, Neil.
But even between those two examples, Andrew, that you mentioned, though, when it comes to making the choice, it's not logical, though. Like you can have options, but the moment of feeling that choice is not a logical one. Right? You're not deciding.
Well,
You're
what's the difference between deciding and choosing?
deciding. You are looking at the options, weighing pros and cons, and then you make a selection. Choosing, choosing, even if you have options in front of you, you just know which one you want to choose. It's something that you're not making the decision from your head or your heart entirely. It's
What if you decide? What about decide versus deciding? Because deciding, that feels. But if you decide something, is that the end point of deciding? Is like that is decide the end point of the verb deciding, that process?
I don't understand the question.
Well, decide feels different than deciding. Deciding feels like a process of where decide feels like it's happened. Well, that's decided, but like decide is like a now. Deciding feels like you're in the process of selecting and doing everything you just said.
Yeah, for me, the word decide implies more that there's specific options you're deciding between, while the word choice for me is much more expansive. It
Why?
feels less restricted. I don't know, maybe that's just the way
Okay. Yeah.
I
No,
internalize.
this is what we're doing. There's no right or wrong. We're just exploring.
Yeah, it's interesting, yeah.
I think for me, deciding feels more like an ellipsis, and decide feels like a period, like you've made a
Hmm.
distinct choice.
You know,
And then a choice feels more of a behavior plus that choice versus a cognitive decision. Like it feels very cognitive to me to make a decision, but with the absence of that choice.
can you make a decision that's not a choice?
Mm.
So you guys can see why somebody, when they hear just make a choice in my book, some people have no fucking idea what to do, and some people get everything they want. Or they hear stopping, right? Just stop. Okay, I'll do more. Certain people, yeah. So it may sound like we're just mental masturbating semantics here, but through the movement, really, if you do not, if you're unable to embody the power of choice, you're going to have a very unfulfilling life. If you can get this, you'll be able to actually see the difference between a life where you can't make choices, or where you're letting other people choose for you, or whatever it is, and being able to say, oh, there's a reason why it's the last part of the last part. It's the final thing in the book. Make a choice. There's a reason. It's not the least important. I'll tell you that. So, what else? Go ahead.
I had a question just to raise for the group, just something building on something that she mentioned earlier. Uh, how important is it for the somatic definition of choice to include the environment, space, environment, and other people? Because I feel with me too, I tend to feel that the choice comes from within. But yeah, so I guess it's just a question for the group, like how important is it that the choice is made in connection with the environment?
Well, the first thing that I hear in that, and then also kind of knowing where kind of where your frame of coming from is, kind of this narcissistic aspect. Um, okay, so is there a implication in that that when you make a choice from within, it doesn't include the space and others,
Mm,
right? Because if you make a choice internally, you can or cannot consider the space as well. Taking input, right? If you're getting feedback, your feedback implies that you're making a choice based upon the space. But if you're making a choice inside from within and you don't include the space, it almost feels like nothing will happen then, because the space is where you take action, and choice requires action.
Yeah, yeah. As you were saying that, I was kind of feeling how like, ooh, I was kind of feeling like how not taking into account the other stuff feels more like my definition of deciding, where you're just kind of logically weighing pros and cons. But with choice, it feels to me like in the somatic definition that you need to be in connection. Like it is coming from a place that is in feeling connection with all the things.
Sure. I would imagine that would kind of one of those things where it's like there's like probably a base to all of these that is like conscious. Like there's certain things where, yeah, feeling, being alive, you probably can't do any of these without being alive. And that might be one of them where it's like, well, okay, well, so knowing that some of you are isolated from the space, right? Either narcissistically or afraid or in terror or in judgment and superiority, you have created a separation from the space. And so that is going to cause great dysfunction in the way that you manifest and show up and embody these different things. So some of these feel like possible. Like you can reject God and life and yourself all you want. But ultimately the only way to do that is by killing yourself. And so you're not really doing it. You're just killing yourself, really, is what's happening. So there's things where, yes, you can isolate from the space. Like we've seen, well, don't need to give examples, but we've seen examples of somebody being in the space doing dancing or movement, and it doesn't feel like they're connected to anything. Now, energetically, that's what's happening. Practically, they're still in the fucking room they're in, right? But the problem comes in is that how do you make it so when you're in the room, you feel disconnected from it? Well, that's a real thing. We can feel that. There's no denying that. So in a practical, tangible engineer physics place, you're like, what are you talking about? That person's in the room. They're connected. Their feet are on the floor. But in an energetic way, how you're managing the energy internally can be something different. And that difference is going to create a lot of dysfunction and pain and suffering in your life. So there are things like this in the definition where if you aren't including your environment in the space and your choice, it's probably not going to be very effective, because in order to affect your environment and space, you have to participate in it. You have to be connected to it. So what you're saying would lead me to imagine somebody who lives in a fantasy. And so this is what that probably would look like. I'm bringing it full circle for you here, folks. Don't worry. Fantasy, right? If you're making a choice and you're excluding the external environment, what's probably happening is you're doing it in a fantasy. You're doing it in your head, and it's going to have no effect. And so you're going to probably be living your life saying, yeah, but Andrew, I chose to be a famous actor. Great. And what have you done? Well, I've chosen it. Well, have you done anything in your environment, aka taken action? And they say no. Well, they didn't really make the choice, because choice requires action. And in order for it to have any effect in reality, you must do it here in time and space. If you do it up here, it doesn't, nobody cares. Hey guys, I made $1 billion in my head. Who wants to accept my imaginary currency? Nobody does. This is the game we're playing. This is the dimension that's happening. We're here to take what's in here, manifest it in this physical realm. This is feedback, right? This is feedback, folks. Feedback as manifestation, as I say in the book. And that requires choice. So it does appear that there has to be action. We could say meaningful choice. You could make a pretend choice in your head, but then in movement, we would probably see you do nothing, right? So can you guys imagine if I said make a choice and somebody stood there and you saw nothing happen? It probably wouldn't feel like a choice, right? It feels like when you make a choice, that's an action, that's a verb. There's a movement that occurs. Are you guys able to see how this is very practical? Yeah. Because great, that tells us that if you're making choices in your head, you think you're making choices, but you're not actually taking the actions, and you're not having an effect in time and space in your environment, it probably means you're not making a choice and you're conning yourself. Hannah, where did you go? Where are you? Because that is exactly what you're doing. Isn't it funny? We leave when we need, it's the exact thing we need to hear. Hannah, did you hear me?
Yes, I brought the computer with me to the
Yeah.
bathroom.
All right. You win that round, but it's interesting that you got to go to the bathroom right when it's exactly. What did you hear? Where'd you go? All right. She didn't finish peeing. Go ahead, Darun.
Yeah, look, it was crazy. Like, as to the entire discussion with choice, things had started to come up really strongly, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? And my face is contorting, and I was like, no, I keep feeling it. But I think when Neil asked that question about space, it really, like, we talk about how I'm so disconnected from the room, and I think when he asked that question, I just had a sudden click. Holy shit, I've been making all the choices without any feeling. Why the fuck isn't any of my choice effective in the world? And you started talking about it, and then you just said that, and I'm like, oh my goodness, it's crazy. And it's like, I just felt like I wanted to leave my body. Like, it was just so uncomfortable just dealing with all the things. And you said, oh, Hannah just left the space. And I'm like, that's actually what I wanted to do. I just wanted to leave. It was just so uncomfortable here. Just, I don't know, bad choices.
What do you not want to feel?
I think the responsibility of all, the fact that just being the space of negative emotion and just feels so. I don't want to be here. I don't want to make choices. I never realized I didn't want to do that. I want the choice to be given to me. I want a set of curated choices, and every one of them must be good. And I don't want to make a bad choice.
What happens if you make a bad choice from your own choices, from your own selection?
From a menu, curated menu.
No, not from your curated menu.
Right. Okay. From all the world of possibilities of choice, it just feels overwhelming. It just, I don't know what's right, what's wrong, what's up, what's down, what's okay. So the curation is supposed to give me a sense of lose all of that, the need to figure out what's up, right, down, inwards, outwards, like because I
Wow.
don't have that sense.
Orientation. Yeah,
Yes,
you want others to orient yourself to the world because you don't want to. Yeah, go ahead.
because I don't know how to do that. So therefore, these
No.
choices must. Yeah, it's okay. Geez.
Yeah. Well, you do, but you're afraid you don't.
Mm. Because I don't know how to orient myself because I wasn't even connected to the world.
Well, you don't want to be
Wow.
connected to the world
Yeah.
because what don't you want to feel? What
Just
happens?
discomfort.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
what happens when you make these bad choices or orient yourself poorly?
Yeah, I don't know if it's about making bad choices because making proper choices requires me to connect to the space and the world, and I felt that different, and it feels bad at the moment. It feels so uncomfortable that I just want to leave. I just want to walk away right now from this conversation, but it was illuminating. I don't know what the feeling is yet, but it just feels really uncomfortable. Just being connected and making a
Well,
choice from that space.
we'll go into it in your body. What's that discomforting, dizzying, endless possibility of the world from your body, touching, grabbing? Yeah, go back to being a baby. Just sort of feel just your first experience of this bluggably, blobbly, shapy, colory world. It's this is also part make this is also um order from uh order from chaos.
Mm. It actually feels that resonated, like making order from all this somewhat resonated, and making the blobby into something concrete feels difficult.
It almost feels like your parents didn't tell you what things were.
Spot on, because the word that came out was lack of guidance. The words in my head, like there was no guidance.
Yeah, it feels like you didn't like go through picture books and being like, this is a sun, this is a dog. Say dog. I remember being young enough, not directly, but being young enough to where I would still point and say, "What's that?" Do you guys remember that? Can you remember back in a time in your life where you didn't know what things were? Just feel that. Just everybody take a moment here and get still and silent. Where's that place? Where's that time where you see and saw things? You had no label for it already. This is a non-dual kind of practice. How do you look through the world without labels? Now you can have what Darun experienced, which is terror and fear and confusion. Another possibility is curiosity and wonder and exploration. In Darun, this maps with various movements we've done in our private practice together. It reminds me of when you were stepping out of the village and walking into the forest on your own. It's a similar kind of feeling like this.
So I can deeply held belief that I can't make a blob make sense.
Why do you have to
Whatever.
make a blob make, why does it have to make sense?
Okay.
Why will you not allow a blob to just be a blob? What do you feel if you just do that? What's the fear or whatever that comes up?
It feels terrifying. It's just
let's take a look at this real quick. There's an aggression. There's almost a predatorial feeling, a hunting feeling. And the thing that sticks out to me the most is a lack of movement, forward movement with your feet from your legs. So you do not move position. So you're directionalized without moving towards that choice. Go ahead, Neil.
Yeah, it feels. I was feeling the aggression too, Andrew, and it feels like approving of I can do this.
Proving. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a approving of I can do this, but I don't get the sense that it's going to be done. It's
Right.
kind of more of it's it's a show of yeah, I can do this
Without doing it. Yeah.
without doing it.
So when you see this, Darun, what's as you watch this, right? Because this is connected to this feeling that you were just in of this making sense of the world, terror, blob stuff.
Yeah, it feels definitely like there's so much threat around and so much noise, and I have to cut through all of that just to get to even see that little thing.
Mm.
And I can see I'm moving it from the hip, but nothing's actually happening.
So this is going to be kind of what Neil said. Somebody who thinks that they're making choices, and it seems like they're making all these choices, but they're frustrated and wondering why those things aren't happening. Do you guys see this?
Yeah, I also see a bit of feels like a or acting. Um,
Mm.
there's a little bit of a pose to it.
Yeah.
It almost feels like you're in a video game. Like you're literally looks like, yeah.
To me, it feels like you're trying
It
to
ends in
stay
a.
in a.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
It almost feels like you're trying to stay in your comfort zone, but act brave.
Yeah, so we're seeing some kind of posing, right? Acting, posing, posturing, this sort of feeling. He literally ends it in a pose. Each one ends in a pose, right? And so that has this feeling of being able to hide out in this and to appear this way without. So it's the choice. Let's see. All right, so let's define this. This is orienting yourself, right? Because it does feel directionalized. All right. So that maps. So we get to see. All right. Perfect. Directionalized. The first thing that we realized here. Okay. That's an element. Is that everything? Clearly not, because we can see directionalized here and it doesn't feel like this choice, like a choice, right? So that there must be something else.
Follow through. 'Cause what he does is he kind of poses it out. It looks like he's kind of stopping to have you make a statue of him, and then, but then he's like, "Oh wait, actually here,
Mm.
actually here."
Okay. Okay. Well, so then does it feel like he's made whatever 3 or 4 different choices, or does it feel like these are 4 of the options? You guys understand? Yeah.
Without actually making a choice. Like I can see these options, but I haven't even made a choice yet.
It looks like he's practicing making a choice.
Yeah, like practicing committing. There's a committed energy here, but
Yeah.
there's a but to it. The but is that because of the lack of follow through, um, so again, this is yeah, it's posing. Yeah, I mean, great Instagram pictures, but not a great bank account or whatever. So you guys see also an element here, how easily people can fool people and con people and trick people. And you see these marketings. And so this is something also to help you be more aware of people in life when they make postures and poses, whether
Yeah.
it's through language or copywriting or ads or dating profiles.
Because he looks really good doing it. Like
Yeah.
he looks really good, like confident, sure. Like it's almost
I
it looks
nailed the
exactly how
image.
you it looks
Yeah,
exactly how you want a choice to look.
right.
It
And
looks
the
like
thing is,
him doing it and we
Right.
freeze framed it. But the problem is it's not a freeze frame.
Yeah.
the,
Because you play it and it just ends. Yeah.
and I'm fooling myself because I'm like, I'm making choices. I'm
Yeah.
making choices, but all I'm doing is just posturing. And
That's the
yeah,
dangerous part. Yeah.
mm,
And so this is going to be so folks, all right, here's another perspective. If you're hiring somebody and they come in and they do this, you're like, awesome, he's going to fucking hunt some fucking mammoths and get it for us. But if you had Cinesomatics, if you had this, you would see this and say, oh shit, this person is really going to look like they can do the job, but maybe not follow through. They might. It doesn't feel like they're I don't feel malice. This feels like insecurity. It doesn't feel like evil or sociopathic or malice or anything like that. So I would be okay working with this person, like helping them sort this out. Um, but if I said, here's a spear, and he's like, oh, actually, hey, I got sick this day or something. Oh, yeah. And this kind of maps to your earlier, well, what you've shared with me about the, let's say, incongruency of your early career choices, getting your early jobs. That's kind of something that this might look like. Anything else, Darun?
I suppose, um, is it just me just practicing this movement in feeling and doing that somatic archetype that we are yet to define of what making a choice is, that would assist me in embodying making a choice.
I mean, from here, what I would do, and we have a session tomorrow, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, so we can do that there. But what I would
Okay.
do, um, just so everybody can learn from this, the first thing I would say is move your feet. That would be my first choice.
Hmm.
Maybe yeah, just from the physical perspective, move your feet because what that's probably going to do is break you out of the pose, right? So don't even worry about not posing, just move
Mm.
and move the part that's frozen, which is your feet. And what's going to happen is stuff's going to come up. This is going to fall apart. You're going to discover the insecurities and inadequacies and dysfunctions and stories and all that stuff. Um, and then from there, um, let's see. Yeah, I would also try, um, maybe not secondly, but at some point, I'm just going to say it because it's coming to me. Playful, right? What would this look like? Light, because this literally looks like your predatorial, your, if you were trying to get a sales job with a sleazy sales company, they'd fucking love this. right? But when it actually came to getting the numbers, maybe not, you would perform. But this is like sexy to those like young men gonna crush the sales, like 10x Grant Cardone kind of energy. But without the follow through, we don't know.
Yeah, Andrew, that's a great point. It's kind of like I would hire this person to be be like a lead generator or to bring in contacts for the company, create the business connections, but maybe not for managing the relationship.
Yeah, or closing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's interesting. There's you know, uh, it's starting tasks, um, being in them or finishing them. Different people are great just perpetually being inside something. Some people are great starting things like serial entrepreneurs, and then some people are great at finishing them and tidying everything up and you can get in a relationship with all of them, but yeah, and then so there's that. And then I would also maybe try sticking with one thing. I would probably want to see what happens next. Would be interesting. It may not be a part of choice, but it still may be helpful in cleaning it
Follow
up.
through.
Yeah, and seeing,
Mm.
so some people might not have their problem in the selection, right? We, we saw what people did. Maybe they select something fine. Maybe they don't do anything with it. Now, is that necessary? Is that part of choice? I don't think so. I mean, you can choose a lot of stuff and get it and not do anything with it. You can choose to have $1 million and do nothing with it. I don't think that's necessary, but you do have to take action. You do have to do the things that will generate that $1 million. And so it's okay to do ancillary things like that as you're healing and discovering. Um, but as far as the actual definition of the specific thing, it's important to feel through, all right, the result isn't necessarily at that choice, but it kind of is in a certain way, because if you make a choice, the result is inherent in the choice that you made. Just like when I made the choice to have this book, this was inherent in the choice that I made, or else I would have made a different choice and I would have a different outcome. So you could explore, and we could try that and explore what would it feel like for the outcome to be included in the choice process. And you could feel that. You may not necessarily have done the year of work it takes to get that, but you would probably see the genesis of that in the choice. Just like the village of houses is within the DNA of the acorn, right? The acorn builds a tree. You just take the acorn and make acorn mush, great. But the acorn can also turn into an oak tree. Well, that oak tree could also make 100 oak trees. All right, well, 100 oak trees could make fucking lumber, and all that lumber could make village of houses. All of that was contained. You have understand that village of houses was contained in that seed. The potentiality of that was contained in the acorn.
But Andrew, how do you then tell in
But
that
Neil,
feeling? How do you then tell, like with that feeling you're talking about, and differentiating that between choices that you told yourself you made, but you never really actually made? Like, for example, in my case, I feel that for years, I told myself, all right, I'm gonna make a career as a musician or make a career as a health coach. And I feel that I keep I keep rechecking myself on it, and it feels like I never made that internal choice. And the only way I know that is by the results.
right?
But I was just wondering, I mean, is there some other feeling sense for it? Because I could have saved myself a lot of pain or made different choices,
Another
if I
feeling
had a
sense for
better
what?
for how the feeling of the choice, like what you said with the book,
Yeah.
or that differs from what I felt, because it felt like a choice to me. Like
Well,
for sure, it felt
right.
very strongly like a choice.
Right. So it's kind of the inverse, is that what you actually felt wasn't what you chose. So it would be a recalibration of your internal sensors rather than an additional thing. Because what you chose that felt like what you chose wasn't, because you got something else. And so we would have to look at that. Maybe you were in a fantasy. Maybe there's a miscalibration, because what you chose, what you felt, what you chose is what you got. And so my first thing to go to, I wouldn't say 100%, but I would place a lot of money on, is that what you calibrated to your feeling choice was inaccurate.
Mm.
And there it could have simply have been a distorted image. That feeling might be the same feeling, but you pass through a distorted image onto it. And so you got the same feeling response, but because it went through a distortion filter system, right? You've all seen that, whatever video I talked about, where you have the distortions and projections and traumas and all this wacky shit that gets in the way between your intuition, that impulse of feeling, and your consciousness. And if you have all of this kaleidoscope of crap going on here, a true impulse from your intuition is going to end up wackadoodle by the time it reaches your mind. So that would lead me to believe we would do movement on it and be able to tell right away. But really, the proof is in what happened. And this is what I say in the book. I could have made a choice, unless this book is in your hand, reading it right now or listening to it. Then the choice I would have made would have been to write a draft, an unpublished draft. I could write the whole book and not published it, and the result is what I would have chosen. So you don't really know the choice until you get the result. But that's also contained in the choice. This is a bit metaphysics of it. But I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. It was an absolute knowing. I literally said to like my family, the only thing that would stop this from being published is me dying, and an act of God preventing me from doing it. And even so, coming back again in the next 13 billion years. Like, it was just that knowing. And not every single choice I make or has that level of stuff, but what I had to overcome in order to do that and manifest it was, fairly high. And yeah, I felt 100% alignment. There's some concerns and problems and struggles I had to figure out. 0% doubt.
So does choice come with 0% doubt? Is that one of the components?
It's a good question. It's a good question. Perhaps, I don't know. If doubt comes up along the way, did you still make the choice? Well, you could still be in the process. It could, because there's a time frame too of when you make the choice and then the result. Within that time period, you probably could have some doubt, I guess. It still means you made the choice. Well, it would mean that you made the choice for some aspect. It would you made the choice to start it, at least. And
Yeah.
maybe you made the choice to do it anyway despite doubt. That could be a choice. And then maybe you have certainty in that. That could be a component. But again, doubt has an element of uncertainty. And if you make a choice with uncertainty, it could be a scale. It could be a power. There could be a potency of choice. Maybe. I don't know. That sounds weak. That sounds I make a choice with 1% energy, with 1% conviction. That doesn't feel like a choice. Yeah, so it feels like there has to be some level. I mean, I find that it's like a good sense is when there's no drama in anything. I choose to lift this up and have a sip. If you can make all your choices like that, you're probably doing fantastic. Like, I want to send rocket ships to fucking Pluto or something. Great. And you have the capacity to do it. Not everybody has the capacity to do everything, right? Yeah, probably most of us don't have the capacity to be 8 foot tall.
Okay, so thank you, Andrew. I have a question about
Sorry to
that.
disappoint my
Yeah.
NBA players.
No, this is really great. Just kind of what she was asking. So when you were writing your book, did you have some doubts but no drama? So is it that there's no drama?
No, I had no doubts of publishing the book. Now there's other elements. So it's important to understand this kind of goes to what Holly was talking about, is that there's kind of large overarching choices, and then there's mini choices, and then there's micro choices within it. You it's like a to-do list. It's like I want to write a book. Well, there's a fucking 100 fucking choices that I have to do within that. But because I made the overall one, I have to make those. Like I have no problem making those choices. There's going to be a bunch of shit in it, sure, but because I attached to that larger vision, that larger choice, like you probably chose, Neil, to be healthy, right? Now, you may through that choice uncover disease or problems or nutritional deficiencies. Well, you made a choice to be healthy. And so you're just going to say, all right, I'm just going to take these supplements. Oh, I'm just going to do this alternative medicine. Cool, great.
Okay, that's a great example, Andrew, because yeah, not once have I ever doubted my original choice of being healthy or drama, but I have when it comes to having a career as a musician or as a health coach. I have doubted the original.
Yeah. So what we might want to say too is we might want to presuppose that our definitions are highly functional, most functional. That might be a useful thing to do. I might presuppose that in the somatic dictionary, in this work. What is the point of us spending all this time and energy and effort into finding a way how to make a mediocre choice? That's I make a choice. That's not the choice I'm going to make. So I make the choice that as we define these things, we do it in a way that's as highly functional as we can, as most functional as we can. And if we discover that some things has a gradient, like, I don't know, like maybe giving and receiving, there's a scale to it. You can say, all right, this is what it feels like to give in a small way or in a large way. Perhaps, I don't know. I'm just so you guys can understand. But as we're talking about this, it's really becoming clear that if you're going to make a choice, why not make a powerful choice? Why even talk about anything less than a powerful choice? So, in a powerful choice, which to me is just a choice, right? It's like being healthy. Do you want to be healthy or do you want to be part healthy? Now, if you're part healthy, you're probably sick. So, yeah. So to me, it really feels like when you make a choice, there's a certainty in it. If otherwise, you're not making a choice. You're hoping something's going to happen. And then if you die trying to do it without it doing it, well, who fucking gives a shit? That sounds good to me.
That really landed. The certainty aspect, I think that really landed. Because all of a sudden I felt, yeah, that feels like the distinction that I've been missing. Like there's many choices I've made, but that certainty being there, I'm not so sure. I don't know if I've ever really we kind of assume we assume the certainty is there. And maybe most of the time it's not. Otherwise we would get what we wanted to get
Yeah.
or what we thought we chose.
Yeah. But even what we wanted to get and thought we would get are different than what we have chosen to have and do and be.
Right.
Yeah. Do you feel the difference even when I say that?
Yeah.
just in using the word choose, how I've used it with the feeling that I'm coming from versus wanting and thinking that we were going to get, it feels much more powerful. Holly, you got something to say?
It feels like we
Go ahead, G. Finish up.
it feels like the double slit experiment that you just mentioned. Like the certainty of this is a wave. The particle is a wave. The certainty of this is a particle. It becomes a particle. Otherwise, there is no manifestation possible if there isn't a definite consciousness that's making a choice.
Yeah. Well, a boundary too, right? It's specifying. You're delineating. A choice is
Right.
delineating in a certain way, kind of like deciding. Decide, right? To decide, side, to kill off. When you decide something, you're killing off other options. You don't have to have that when you make a choice. You just choose something. You don't have to kill anything off necessarily to do that.
But the particle needs it. Like the wave needs the certainty in order
Yeah.
to be what one or the other. Like it can't be one without the certainty that it is.
Well, this is perfect because when they're working on quantum computers, and the biggest problem is the uncertainty, is that in classical physics, electron and photon, all these things are going to stay that. That's why every time you go on your calculator and say 2 + 2 = 4 equals, it says 4. It doesn't sometimes say 4.2. And so in the quantum mechanics, what happens is there's the biggest issue right now is error correction, is that sometimes it's 5, sometimes it's 3, and it has to be 4. And so the applications of quantum computers are going to be very different than classical computing because of that uncertainty. And so when you have that certainty, that's kind of the whole point of a qubit, is that it's a 1 or a 0 or a Schrodinger's cat, right? You guys know Schrodinger's cat experiment. If you don't, look it up. It kind of explains this. So yeah, that's a very interesting thing. So this could also just be a metaphysical, like, choice is this powerful. Conscious observation, choice from wave into particle, uncertainty principle. Yeah, there's something here. It's not nothing.
So then, do you feel a boundary around your certainty with that choice, Andrew?
Boundary.
Because you mentioned the word boundary. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, well, as a delineation, right? Because boundaries create delineations. Our skin is a boundary. Our borders of our countries are boundaries that define it. So, I don't know about choice, but there's a defining of it. We have to say, I am this and you're that in order to function in 3D space. In a spiritual perspective, right? In spirituality, non-duality, we understand we're all one. But you can't live in that place and function in the world. So you can go there all you want and see up there, see on the next trip. But if you want to operate here in the world, you have to at least be in relationship with duality. It doesn't mean you live in it, like your mindset is in a dualistic way, but you have to understand that there's an up and a down, and a left and a right, and a male and a female, and a yin and a yang, and a white and a black, and proton, all these things.
Well, where I'm coming from, though, Andrew, is that, as you know, we've been doing work on boundaries in our session, and when you mentioned boundary, I just thought it was interesting. Like, does my kind of poor boundaries in certain sense affect my certainty in my choices as well?
I'm sure it could. Yeah. I mean, because, so when I have the high level of certainty, my boundaries are very strong and very clear. Nothing was, like I said, nothing was getting in my way. Oh, you want to come hang out with me and 50 supermodels on a yacht, and here's as much acai bowls as you want and matcha, whatever the fuck it is. I'll say, great, when I'm done. Yeah, there was nothing. I mean, I show you pictures. I mean, it was like in 4 months, I wrote the book, 192,000 words. No. Different book. 124,000 words. Sorry. 124,000 words in 4 months. And then the next 2 months, publishing it. That's massive. That's a lot. I fucking went. That's all I did. Some days I forget to eat and shower. It just was. Nothing was getting in my way. Is that the right way to do it? I don't know. If I wasn't in the position I was in, could I have done it in a other way? Sure, absolutely. But the boundary was still there. Yeah. So if I didn't have that boundary, someone come in and could change my choice. So I could imagine boundaries would be important in order to keep the integrity of your choice in the making of the choice itself. I don't know. Maybe. All right, we got some people making funny faces. Funny face people, speak up. Hannah Daroon. Who else is making funny faces? That's my new. That's gonna be my new my new thing. All right, funny face time. Daroon, Hannah, speak up. Making funny faces.
Just more of the discomfort coming up as we explore all aspects of choices and feeling into it. So it's great, but uncomfortable.
Great,
So
great. Stick with it.
I was just thinking about my own relationship with boundaries, and then earlier was feeling into my choice that I had made to play music and how incredibly certain I always felt in that choice. But as I was feeling into it, it actually felt like the choice was disconnected from the outcome. Like it was almost like, this is my choice no matter what happens. Like it was like it doesn't make sense, but it was like this is decided whether it happens or not, was almost the feeling of it. Um,
So yeah, so then so you made a choice. Okay, so it was interesting because when you first said that, you said I made a choice to did you say play or make music?
um, I think I said play music.
Okay. Does it matter to you if I say play or make? Does it change the feeling?
No.
Okay. You went up into your head to answer that, which is
Yeah.
great. Yeah. So
Yeah.
go into your body and feel.
No, they feel
Okay.
synonymous.
Because they feel different for me. Playing music just means to play it. Making means writing songs, creating it, all sorts of stuff. Um, but so you made that choice. And was it interesting, the first thing that came through when you said to play music was the first thing came into my mind was there's no outcome. There's no, are you gonna make music and be successful? Are you gonna make albums? Are you gonna uh learn? I mean, so it just felt like, okay, well, this is interesting. It felt like the choice you made was a choice to have not an outcome. So it was like you just wanted to play and you didn't care about the other stuff. But that was your outcome. Your outcome was just to play.
Mhm.
But it seems that that choice has resulted in maybe not necessarily the outcome that you eventually wanted.
Right.
And so when did that change? When did you decide you wanted an outcome without a new choice?
When I got older and started caring about making money.
Yeah, that part. Yeah.
Before I cared about money, yeah, it was just about playing. Um, and it also feels like that choice feels like a show, almost like a show of my, what's the word I'm looking for?
I
Like
can.
my determination and
Mhm.
tenacity. Like
Yeah.
it felt like more of a show of that. Like that was
Yeah,
almost more
proving.
important than the outcome. Yeah.
Hannah, when you said before you cared about money, it was about playing, and I felt a sense of sadness. And I don't know whether it's me or you. Like you wished it, you went back to the time of just playing and not caring about the outcome.
Well, I also felt. Oh, I was also going to ask, um, when you decided, or when you decided to care about money attached to your music, did you have that same feeling and level of certainty?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it didn't feel like it. Yeah, it didn't feel like it feels the certainty between I'm just going to play music and I'm going to play music and make money from it. The certainty like almost fell off a cliff. It felt like for the second one.
Yeah.
It
I
was
think
almost
it
like
felt,
you were not confident that you knew how to make money. And so you were not going to make the choice. So it felt like because you didn't know the how, you wouldn't let yourself have the choice.
yeah. And a certain judgment of that, like attaching that desire to make money to it was like a bastardization of,
Yeah. You pervert the magic of it, selling
right.
out. Yeah. We talked about this, I think, with you maybe today, Neil, about how the vision or who, yeah, was it with you about if you don't know the how, you won't let yourself have the vision. Yeah, so this is another really important thing I'm going to reiterate. One of the things that I've learned is that a lot of us will not let ourselves make the choice or even have the vision if we don't know how we're going to do it. And so we don't even let ourselves go there. Maybe it's you, maybe you know someone else who's like, you could feel that they want something, that they want a certain career, that there's something, and you can feel their hearts pining for it, and they're just like, I don't know how, and then they just don't even let themselves enjoy the beauty of that hope, and so they just shut it off. It's too painful, and so the magic. I mean, you guys, this is just, it's really magic if this is a block for you. Have the vision, let yourself have the vision and feel it and play with it and go into it and explore it and define it without worrying about the how or the when or any of that. And even further, make the choice before you try to figure out how you're going to do it. Magic, guys. I can't stress this enough because the how will come once you make the choice. The choice calls the how to it. Maybe not right away, but it comes because you make the choice, and choice requires what? Action. And when you act, and we know that there's a directionality to it, right? And there's an action, there's a movement, it's going to come up. So, in order to get there, you might have to do some digging. You might have to do some healing, right? There might be fear, there might be terror, there might be uncertainty, right? Darun, right? Uncertainty, confusion. There might be all of these things there. And so through that process of addressing those things, after you make the choice, right? I made the choice to write this book. I said, fuck, I got a lot of writing to do. I got to figure out how to get this published. I got to figure out how to run Amazon ads. I have to, it's insane what I had to learn, months and months and months that I had to learn to do it. That was on top of already years and decades of design, publishing, writing experience on top of that. But when I made that choice, it's like, all right, here we go. I took a breath. I said, great. This is going to take months. All right, cool. Bigger thing, the school group, the community, right? All right. Every day, but every week, for the next year, and the next year, the next decade, and the next 2 decades. Are you willing to make a choice that is going to take decades? Again, whether you like him or not, Elon Musk making choices that will take decades. Just a practical example. Going to Mars ain't going to happen overnight. Oh, and you'll see people. Oh, you're going to hear them. Oh, Elon Musk said we're going to be at Mars at 2040 and we got there at 2050. What a fucking loser. Right? Those are losers. Right? Oh my God. It took 10 extra years to become inter-fucking planetary. Right? Again, whether you want it or not, whether you agree or not, this is the power of choice. And you can either be pissed off and a victim, or you can use that same conviction and determination. Watch interviews. He's certain. Well, whether it works out or not, we're going to find out. It's the same for you. What does it feel like to have that certainty? What does it feel like to be able to commit to something for decades and have everybody around you think you're a loser, think you're stupid, think you're never going to do it? And every day you keep showing up. You made that choice. Now, you may come to a point and said, wow, I want to make a different choice. And that is okay. Right? You are allowed to make a new choice at any moment. This is another thing. This is part of the paralysis in making a choice. Is that symbolically a choice is final. The world changes. Reality changes once you make a choice. Once that wave becomes a particle, it's different. You don't, it's a different, right? It happens. The thing happens. Before it, it's a possibility. It's a potentiality. When you have thoughts, your thoughts, these are all potentialities until you actually go, right? Until you make a choice. One of the things that paralyzes people is that permanency aspect. They say, well, if I make a choice, I can't go back. You're right, you can't. There's no going back. However, you can make a new choice. This is the life map. This is in the instructions of the life map. If some of you haven't done the life map yet, you're robbing yourself of your life. And if you've done it and you haven't redone it after feedback, if it was crazy, you're robbing yourself of your life. Because it teaches you, it demonstrates you can make a new choice. Make a new choice. Every day you could have fucked up everything in your whole fucking life. You could have been an absolute awful person. You could have gambled all your money away. You could everything. You have the moment right now to make a new choice and change everything. Is it easy? Nope. The choice itself is easy. The choice to make $10 an hour or $1,000 an hour takes the same amount of energy. Another golden nugget. If you're going to make a choice and it's going to take all that energy to make it, why not make a powerful choice? Right? If you're going to ask for something, why not ask for a lot? If you're going to get married anyways, why not get married with the person you want to get married with instead of someone you're settling with? It's the same fucking cost to get married. So the choice itself is the same. Imagine, for those of you that may be struggling with money, imagine buying a car was as easy as buying a pack of gum. What would that feel like? I can tell you, I just did it twice. I just bought 2 new cars. That was an amazing experience for me on my journey to just go in and say, it was actually really cool. So I got 2 new Teslas and they do it on the app. So I literally got my phone and went click, click, click. All right, your new car will be there next week. It literally was that easy. Now, it's taken a lifetime to have the resources and to learn and to embody being able to do that. And through this work, you're able to supercharge that. Instead of spending 3 decades in order to do that, you could do it in 3 years. This just accelerates everything because you can find out, how do I embody that feeling? And so this is one of the secrets. What would that feel like? And the next time, next goal is, hey, I want to buy a house. Cool. Click. It's fun. I find it fun. Me and my journey. Some of you may not care. Some of you may be able to buy everything you want. Cool, great. What about relationships? What about intimacy? What about having a mystical experience? What about feeling? What would it be like to be able to go in and feel any uncomfortable feeling? What would it be like that you were just as comfortable with fear and intimacy and rejection as you were with play and joy? So your choice. Make a choice. What does it feel like to make a choice? What's required for me to lift this up, take a sip of water? You may think it's just this, but what are all the resources to make the cup? What are all the resources to get me here in this chair? What are all of the inventions throughout human history? Millions and millions and billions and trillions and gajillion, Google, septillion, bajillion infinities had to have happened in order for us to be right here. So the amount that's required to do something like this in this moment here in time and space is infinite. It's never ending. So if it really is that much, how much different is having a house or having that career or publishing that album or that book or becoming a parent or having multiple orgasms, whatever it is? You are one choice away from an entirely different life. It may not happen overnight, but that change starts in an instant from that choice. Right? Mauricio, when you were here for the intensive, in those five days, yeah. In those 5 days, yeah. Most are 3, so 5 days. You made new choices. You made a lot of new choices. And you are seeing the effects of those choices months later that you just reported to us in the beginning of this call. So that would not have happened if you didn't make those choices, right? So some of them take time. Now, in this work, we can help you collapse time, right? We can help you accelerate this process. So it just takes maybe minutes, weeks, a month, maybe a year for things that maybe would have normally taken years or decades, because you're not out there trialing and erroring in the real world. You get to accelerate that here in a sandbox, get rapid feedback, make the shifts and transformations in your body, you move through and integrate and heal all the traumas and the blocks that are preventing you from doing that you would have not ran up against for years in an organic setting. And you're going to be able to accelerate that process. And so that's what we're doing here. And then the sooner you get there, the sooner you find out if that's what you want or not. Imagine wanting something, Neil or Hannah, right? Imagine you've thought being a famous musician and you made that choice since you were younger as your greatest dream. Well, span out maybe 30, 40, 50 years and you finally get there or don't get there. Maybe or maybe not, you realize that really wasn't it. Maybe that just came from childhood trauma of wanting to be heard and be seen or validated or proving your worth. So, wouldn't it be great if in a month you could have figured out what that was and you would have spent a month getting that answer rather than 4 decades? This is the kind of stuff that this work offers you. Right? I did a session with Elias a few months ago. He was talking about investing and stuff. I said, great, show me in the body. And so we went through that and he got to see, okay, well, is that something I wanted to do or not? And I didn't tell him. I just reported the details of what it felt like. And we're both kind of like, yeah, maybe that doesn't look like the thing that's going to fulfill you the most, and that potentially saved hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, or stress, or frustration, drama, pain, suffering. So this is the kind of time-saving, life-saving, stress, drama, pain, suffering saving that you can do when you create a life map, when you come onto these calls, when you do the workshops, when you do the movement and embodiment, these archetypes, when you make the choices, do the healing. You're able to move through lifetimes of learning and discovery and healing in order to have more time to do what you really want to do in life, to actualize yourself, to live more from your true self rather than living from all the programming and all the crap that you guys are letting go of, moving. So choice, all of that choice, it's really powerful. All right, anybody, something they want to share? Start to wrap up here. I know, Holly, you wanted to say something. You so graciously let me monologue. Go ahead.
Yeah, I actually thought more about the question that she asked earlier, and I think I would ruminate instead of actually making the choice. I would think about the choice and I would think about all the ins and outs of it instead of actually doing something. And the reason that I did that was I was actually afraid to make that choice because I knew that I would do everything in my power to make something happen, and that scared me.
All right, gotta call. Who's my funny face people here? Hannah, Daroon. Let's see who else. I don't know. Elias. It's not funny. It just looks unhappy. You all right over there?
Yeah, I was actually I did identify as a funny face person, or identified myself as that once you said it. I was like, that's me a little bit this time. But I don't feel unhappy though that was a frown. I was really struck by uh or I've heard myself, and if I don't know the how, I won't let myself have the vision. And so just now when I had a funny face, I was imagining the feeling of the thing I would want to create. It was like some combination of philosophy and education and building things.
Yeah, I find too that one of the reasons is the pain of not having it. That dissonance, that dissonance. And so oftentimes we don't let ourselves imagine it or feel it because it feels so far away.
And I think of the people that impress me, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to be them. Like, I'm just. So it seems too big. It's like it's too late.
Yeah, it's a good story. It's a choice. Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, it's just a choice.
I guess I can think of lots of incredibly successful, world-changing people that died at the age I'm at, and that means they only had like 20 years of learning, as a teen to an adult. So I got 20 years probably.
Yeah, I would stop the comparison.
Mm.
I know in our private work, this is really taking you out big time. You're using it to take yourself out really big. All the comparing, no one else is like you. You're on a whole different path than anybody else. So am I. I mean, you know how many people looked down at me and were confused and didn't fucking get me? Well, I'm 18 years old on my computer in the mid 2000s writing a fucking software program, and people are like, when are you going to get a real job playing on your computer all day? I wrote a particle effects, physics engine, special effects engine, my first company for software, and it was used by Fortune fucking 10, 100 companies. And I did it all from a fucking little computer, a little laptop, just on the lowest resources. I didn't know programming. I had to learn. I had to learn how to program. This is great. This is a perfect example. In order to write the software I wanted to write, I made a choice to create the software before I knew how to fucking program.
How did you even think of that? Like, what is a particle engine?
I wanted to create special effects for my website. Yeah. So I want to make little smoke effects, little sparkles. Yeah. Just so I had this little animated website in Flash. And so it was animated. And when it popped open, I had the idea of like little dust flowing off, right? You go and go, psh. So just really creative. And I was like, well, how do I do that? And I was looking everywhere and I couldn't figure it out. And so I started looking at tutorials and I hodgepodged paperclip duct tape code together, copy pasted, and I got a rudimentary thing. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. And I played with it a little more, a little more, a little more, a little more. Da, 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 da. I started, oh, well, what if I could make it do this? Ooh, that's neat. Then I showed somebody at the job I was at for 3 months, and they're like, oh, that's really cool. Are you going to sell it? I said, what? They're like, yeah, like if you could find a way to make that really easy for people to do, they just buy it so they wouldn't have to do it themselves. What? And that literally was the genesis of my entrepreneurship journey, which has been one of the craziest rides of my life. At 18 years old, I didn't know what entrepreneurship was. I didn't know about starting a company. I didn't do it because it was hip or cool. I'm literally like, I want to create this thing for myself. And Darun, this comes into what we've talked about you starting a business. It's like, I didn't want a business. I didn't want to program. I didn't want any of this shit. I just wanted to be able to do this cool fucking thing I wanted to do. And so I chose to do it. Well, 16 months later, folks, 16 months later, I learned how to program and code and created this whole thing. It took 16 months working at least 12 hours a day on a piece of shit computer in my grandparents' house. It's like the ghettoest, gangsterest fucking kind of image you could get. It's like if you look at Jeff Bezos starting Amazon in a fucking warehouse. That's kind of like what I did. It wasn't Amazon. It was a little particle effects, special effects software. But it's still fucking amazing for being a fucking loser, a societal loser, made fun of, no friends, in podunk nowhere town, New York. And then that leading me there, and then that leading me to work in Southern California, which then introduced me to alternative holistic world, which introduced me to hypnosis, all these alternative things, which then blah, 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 led me to learning this work, and blah, 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 here we are. So all of those, not all of them, but a lot of those were great demonstrations of what I'm talking about here. I made the choice to make this thing before I knew how. That's been the story of my life. And I failed a lot. but I've also had some really cool successes because of it. And I've learned tremendously, and I've transformed and grown tremendously. And it's fucking awesome. So that journey of making the choice, having the vision, and then being resourceful and finding out how to make it work. It was all in there. And then I did that for the second version. I was like, great. So I wrote a second version. I was able to do that in 11 months. I was able to do an entire remake. It wasn't an update. I recoded the whole thing in a whole new fucking language. But with everything I've learned, and I did it all by myself. It was no team, just 100% by me. I had to learn everything. It was crazy what you have to learn. Front end, back end, website. I created an algorithm for licensing software, activated on the server, support tickets, it just payment process. There was no Shopify back then, right? So I was literally typing the code by hand. Yeah, so I made the choice, and then I figured out how to do it afterwards, and it happened. And every time I came up against a problem, I I solved it. So I got really good, really, 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 really good at solving problems, especially when you're coding. Because if everything isn't perfect, it fails. That ended up being a detriment to me at certain points later on when I had to like feel and talk to people and let go of the things that, right, what got me there wasn't what was going to get me to here. And so there were some things that I had to let go that I learned from that place. But that's all the journey. I made another new choice. After I had my software company, I made a new choice that I wanted to get into this world. Oh my God. And it was a fucking 12-year journey to get here. But I made the choice. I made the choice to write this book, as I say, before I even started it. There was like a pre-choice choice that I have a vision map of me with a book cover that, was like best-selling book in the world or whatever it was. And so before I even started writing the book, I had all these things ready to go. But it took me 10 years before I had embodied enough to make the choice to start the writing and publishing of the actual book. But it was the start of it was 10 years before it happened. And so most people never do it. And so I was able to do that like in 10 years. Now the next book can happen in months because I've embodied what it takes to publish a book now. And so the next one's going to happen much faster rather than 10 years. Right. But the important thing to see there was my new choice from being a programmer to being an author, from being a computer nerd to into health and alternative medicine, transformation, spirituality, all of that stuff. So I made a new choice. Say, okay, I don't want to do this code monkey shit anymore. I'm into this new stuff. Great. That choice had some consequences. I was homeless twice, but also consequences of I've learned all this and I'm here able to teach and share this with all of you and millions of people in the coming decades. And so with that embodied, I have so much trust. I have so much faith in knowing because I've embodied this. And so I think the final piece here, as we wrap this up, is it's that feeling that's important. That knowingness, along with the choice, was a feeling versus a thought, versus a fantasy, versus a distorted kind of feeling, versus a wanting. And so what we did here today was a explorative, everyone contributing, exploring, experiential process of feeling into what it is to make a choice, a powerful choice, a choice. So you're just one choice away. Now, in order to get to that choice, you might have some work to do. But then you choose to do the work in order for you to be able to make that choice. That's a great way to I'm sorry, I'm not ending so quickly, but more's coming. That's another thing too. I think Holly touched upon this in a certain way of, great, if you're unable to make with conviction the ultimate vision you want, work backwards and find what's the greatest within integrity for you to be able to choose. Maybe you're not in a place to choose to have a new career, but you might be in a place to choose to find a new hobby that could eventually lead to it. Start there. Start with where you're at. Ideally, you're able to make that, but if you can't, you be honest with yourself and find the highest, closest choice that you can make in that certainty, in that integrity. And once you get there, you might have a new buffer zone. You might be able to then reach for something a little higher. I hear somebody squeaking. Maybe Elias, someone's squeaking in the background.
It's me. You just hearing my voice.
So what are you guys hearing? Has this been helpful? This is very unusual. This is a very, very different kind of fellowship call. Anybody get anything from this? Raise your hand. Yeah. Cool. Great. Any final thoughts, realizations? Perhaps no questions to open another can of worms, but final thoughts, feedback, realizations.
Yeah, just something quick.
Yeah.
There was a moment, Andrew, where you were talking about when you were decided to write your book. You went like this with your hands, like this. Like you went. It felt in alignment,
Mm-hmm.
and so the question came up, well, not to for you to necessarily to answer, but what does alignment feel like? And
Well, it feels like that. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
like and even doing it kind of feels out of alignment, like a kind of like
Well, can you get it aligned? Well, yeah, this feels like coming into alignment. Yeah. Because there is that motion coming into alignment. Moving, right? Moving from an aligned place. Yeah, it feels like this to me. Could it feel different? Moving from alignment? What's aligning? Yeah, I mean, this is what I want to do. You try it in both ways. Coming together like this. This doesn't quite feel like alignment to me. This feels like coming together is kind of what I would feel here. Being aligned. Maybe this way. This could feel aligned too. I could do it this way. This way. I don't know. This is interesting. Huh. This feels different. I don't think I've ever done this. So this is cool stuff. This is what I do all the time, folks. Just finding new ways to move, exploring. So many of you are just so wrapped in to try to be perfect and find the one right way. It's not. You see how easy it is for me to do this? I'm not attached. If Jonathan shares this and says, hey, wait a minute, this looks wacky, I'll say, wow, you know what? You're right. Let's try something else. And I'm going to take it, adopt it, and embody something more functional. But we're just exploring this. So why I can do this so easy is because I'm not giving it meaning, right? Some of you just make stuff mean so much. Oh my God. But now imagine instead of something like this, it's like this, or this, or this, or this, or this, right? Something that maybe is more triggering. As you go through this work, it might take months or years. You go through it, you get in relationship with enough of these archetypes, these energies, the shadow material, all this stuff. You surrender to it, and it becomes fun. You get to explore it. Oh, okay, cool. All right. Wow, I look like a really evil person. Cool, neat. What does that feel like? Right? That may be the ultimate thing to be afraid of out of relationship, unwilling to go to. But when you make it mean something about you or about anything, it can stop you, can prevent you from going there. So yeah, all right, cool. Alignment, interesting. Yeah. What about this? This could feel aligned.
Yeah, the two feel um like just like doing it here versus here feels so different to me. Like here it feels more like I'm centered
Mm-hmm.
and certain, but it feels like um but here feels more like, I guess because here it's kind of more aligning the spine, while here it's kind of like merging the mouth with the chest or something. This feels more like I'm speaking the truth.
Interesting. I feel like for me, this kind of feels like I'm building something.
Me too. I felt architecture in that.
Yeah. This, I feel you here, Neil. Like, yeah, this feels centering. Yeah,
Mm,
this it's kind of I feel it because it feels like it forces my arms downwards, so it's like a rooting kind of feeling.
mm, mm.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Anybody else? So you can see this. There's just so much fun stuff that we can explore through movement. Um, Hannah, you're smiling. Something? Are you learning anything here? Or are you just playing with yourself? With
Both.
what are you learning here today?
Uh, oh, I mean, a lot. Um, yeah, a lot. Yeah, a lot about. I also fall into if I don't know the how, I don't let myself make the decision, but kind of as a reaction and sort of punishment to myself because I felt like I did that my whole life with music of like, I don't know how, but I'm doing this. And then now I'm kind of running this like, well, look where that got me. And so now I feel like I need to know how. I need to be more structured, have a plan. And but then it's put me into this
Do
paralysis of not
do you know the magic here? Do you know how to fix that instantly?
how.
But do you? I mean, from what you learned here today,
Make a choice.
you just do it in the wrong order. Finding the plan, doing all of that's fine. You do that after the choice. You're doing it before you make the choice. All you got to do is switch them. You're not doing anything wrong. You're just doing it in the wrong order. But you're using it to attack yourself. You just have it backward, like fucking everything. But you use it to punish yourself and attack yourself, and you invalidate both of them. Then you invalidate the doing the plan and figuring out the how, and then you also invalidate just choosing it and figuring it out. If you just flip it and do the opposite order, you validate both of them, and you're gonna fucking take off. But you're using these things to punish yourself. Chi, go ahead.
The piece that I also heard was the certainty. So for me, it almost felt like that certainty piece came before the true choice could be made. So even if you made a choice and then went through your planning without that certainty, it feels like you end up with nothing. So for me, what I got was do what you need to build the certainty, which is probably where the affirmations, the visioning, the boards, all of those things are really there to build that feeling of certainty. Yes, mine, choice, go.
And
That's
the
what came
embodiment
through.
and the embodiment.
Yes. Yeah, but can you have embodiment without certainty?
No, no, I mean embodying the certainty.
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
embodying the
yeah.
certainty. Yes. Yeah.
It just works a lot faster than an affirmation. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But
Great.
if we didn't have
Yeah,
Andrew,
sure, sure. Yeah.
we would
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
we would do what we had to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. So it feels, yeah, even when you talk about, yeah, when I hear you, Hannah, you do not have faith in yourself to figure out the how. That's the biggest thing I keep hearing. You can trust yourself that you're gonna go on the journey of figuring it out, which you've been stuck in for years, but you don't trust yourself that you'll actually, this goes back to the making money. You could trust yourself that you could play the music. You didn't trust yourself that you could figure out how to actually make money. And that's why you didn't make that choice. It's the same thing with this. And you're just holding back your whole life because of it. But it's this paradox because you're like, I don't know how to make money, so I don't trust that I can figure it out, which means I'm not going to make that choice because then I'm accountable to it. So I'm going to be accountable to nothing and nothing fucking happens. Yeah, and it's just all backward. You're like, I want to make money. Great. I'm going to go make money. Well, how do I do it? Well, let's find out. Oh my God, that feels so much better. I mean, that's, you just feel the opening of possibilities in that. And for you, you do the opposite. You just go chut, 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 close. Just because you're certain doesn't mean you're competent, right? It's like confidence versus competence. I was not competent in programming before I made the choice to make my software. But in order to get what I wanted, I eventually needed to become competent.
But you
Or,
had faith in yourself.
yeah,
You had faith in
yeah,
yourself that you
absolutely, that
could.
I could figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And even if I was so far away, I had to learn basics, right? Maybe I had to learn that programming language. I had to learn how to think like programming. What the fuck is an array? What's a variable? I don't know what the hell that is. So before I even could program, I had to learn even what the concepts were to even go and learn what I needed to do. So it was like, I wanted this. I'm like, I don't know how to get that. Chunk back. Yeah, all right. I guess I would need to know that. Don't know it. Chunk back. Don't know that either. Chunk back, chunk back. What do I need to know that? Oh, I need to know how to Google. Okay, I know how to Google. Great. Next step. Google. How do I do this thing? Okay. And then you just work from there. That's chunking it down. But that's the how. It could be that you just were never taught that. It could be very possible that your parents just never taught you how to solve a problem. As simple as that. And so if you never learned how to solve problems, of course you wouldn't feel competent or confident in solving things you didn't know, which then would lead you to being paralyzed and getting everybody else to solve the problems for you, or having a life so small that you never encountered new problems to solve. It's maybe similar to you not wanting to feel stupid, which prevents you from learning anything, because in order to learn something, you have to let yourself feel stupid first. Right? We talked about that years ago. All related.
Yeah, I don't think I was taught how to solve problems. I think like I've only worked in like soft skills. So I did the same thing even when I decided to study hypnotherapy. Before I even knew what it was, I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be great at it.
Yeah.
And then that's what happened. But then the business side of it,
Yeah. Well, how
it's
can
like I didn't even think about that part. I'm like, I know that I can do this.
well, it sounds like
But
the
then doing the
exact
thing,
story as the music. Yeah.
yeah, it's the same thing.
So yeah, part of it for you is you're leaving out things you're out of relationship with, right?
Mhm.
You have stories around money, so you don't even think about that, right? You don't even value money. You haven't until you realize that you probably should in order to not
Right,
be poor and homeless. So
right.
when you start valuing it, you just feel the same way. Just, you know, can you just say, "Oh yeah, I'm going to be good at this and make a lot of money from it." No, yes.
Yeah, it feels so, yeah, there's just a lot of stuff
Yes.
there.
Yeah. So you
Yeah.
see that there's a lot of blocks there for you. So what's the next question you ask? If you don't know how to solve problems, what's the first question you need to ask?
how do you solve problems?
Yes. And it's that simple. Yeah. Go find out. Let yourself find out, Hannah. Let yourself feel stupid. Let yourself feel ignorant and enjoy it. Get curious how fun it is, how fun you could have tonight on Google, how to solve a problem on YouTube. God, I'm sure there's thousands of really cool, animated, or interesting videos on logic and reasoning and solving problems that you could have a great time. I'm sure there's people in your life that would love having those conversations with you and teaching you. But you see just how much suffering that you are addicted to this stuff. It could be such an adventure, and instead you're just miserable about it. And that's a choice, right? It's a choice to have fun with this, right? It's a choice. Choosing can be fun too. It doesn't have to be like that, unless you're Darun. Cool. Anybody else?
Just love that.
Love what?
The call. I loved what we did there. That's great.
Yeah, really cool. How you doing, Glenn? Mauricio? You guys have been quiet. Good.
Yeah, but
You learning anything?
I'm learning that um action require sorry yeah this choice does require physical action, meaning that something has to change in the routine, in the habits, in external reality to actually reflect that you are making a true choice. I'll give you a simple example. I was thinking the other day, how can I interact with more people to gain more confidence and all of that? And so I made a choice to attend some school for salsa dancing, salsa. So I made the decision and I signed up for
Love chips and salsa and guacamole. My favorite.
this case is the salsa rhythm, the salsa exactly.
I know. I'm making dumb dad jokes. Go ahead.
So I signed up for this class and I'm starting next week. But that's an example of an actual action. I mean, I was thinking for months, how can I interact with people until I found this class and I decided to sign up. So I'll record myself for you to see if I do it from feeling.
Oh,
But
yeah.
yeah, let's see what happens. But yeah, I mean, this proves me that something had to change in my routine to actually prove that I was making a true choice. So my conclusion from this class is that choice requires some change in the external routine or habit or anything.
Great.
Mauricio, I bet when you're dancing with a girl you like, you'll do it from feeling, for sure.
We will see. We will see.
Or you just get so fucking scared shitless you pull out of your body. Ask me how I would know. Oh my God, a girl's touching me. Ah!
The intention is do it from feeling and just enjoy the thing. And
Yeah. Right. Glenn, any words of wisdom? You're absolutely hating this today.
I thought that was good by Mauricio there, like practical words of wisdom. Just, you gotta do something different. That's good.
No, we could have skipped 2.5 hours of the call. Yeah. Anybody else? All right. Cool. Darun, how you doing? I'm checking you real quick before we go.
I'm doing great. Like,
Mhm.
really great. It's all this uncomfortable stuff, and I'm able to stay with it while we're all having this conversation, explore new edges and curves of this. Learning lots too. So all the different examples and the perspectives and the questions is just shaping choice.
This may be the happiest I've ever seen you, Tarun. Like this actual joy in your face. That's
Stop you.
amazing. Because at the
Yeah.
beginning of the call, you looked like really just despondent. Now it's like there's a childlike joy in your face. Like you figured out something big.
No, I did. I was just able, it seems like I was able to be with the discomfort and be okay with it. And that feels far more joyous than actually reacting to the discomfort. So, especially, I think the space and being in and out, I don't know, something cleared up. Something cleared up. So
Yeah,
thank you, G. That means a lot.
absolutely. It looks good.
Yeah, finally, someone gets a shot of me actually being happy in this entire
Yeah.
Yeah.
6 months that we've been doing this work. Yeah.
I mean, while you're at it, could you get rid of that picture in your Zoom? Like, what is that? The black and white thing with the you guys saw when you turn off your camera and that picture comes on? Yeah,
Yeah.
like
That's an old picture. Yeah.
let's
Get rid of it.
let's change
You
that.
know, a
Let's
show of hands for me to get rid of the picture.
I mean, it's kind of hipster. So there's
kind
an
of.
element that I like to it, but like there's I hear what you said to you. There's this
Yeah,
it's kind
but
of
is
hipster.
it art? Is it a
Okay,
mugshot? Oh, I'm not sure.
I was gonna say,
Sorry, that picture is off limits to feedback, Chi. You know, just my current self, right?
Perfect. Man, think about it.
It's
I
amazing
will.
how much more lovable the real face is than an image. Yeah, that we try
Yeah.
to
The posturing
portray.
guy.
Yeah, Johnny Bravo. Yeah, it's
Well,
amazing what the
thank-
ego thinks. I mean that
yeah.
fuck took me out for years when I was in high school. Oh, cool. Yeah, cool, Lou. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I can't be smiling. That's girly. Yeah, now I giggle like a schoolgirl all the time, and some people find it sexy, and that works enough for me. Yeah, it's amazing what the ego does. It thinks some of the most lovable parts of us are unlovable, and yeah, what a journey to reclaim them.
Mm.
You're right, Andrew. Yeah, high school's a lot of woulda.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, whatever. Yeah, you're cute. Whatever. All right, guys, we'll see some of you tomorrow and the rest of you next week.
All
Thanks
right. Take care, everyone.
all.
Bye,
Thanks
Thank you.
for
everyone.
your participation.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
Hi,
everyone.
everybody.
All right. Thank you.